Hello and welcome to this video. So today I'm going to talk about lenses, I'm going to talk about the eye, and I'm going to talk all about glasses as well. So let's get started. So here we have in text written, a light ray bends as it enters glass and bends again as it leaves. Light passing through glass of a certain shape can form an image that appears larger, smaller, closer, or farther than the object being viewed. So here we have two different magnifying glasses. One is on an ant and the other is on a CD. So we should remember that when light rays are bent through other mediums, this is called refraction, right? So the light ray is coming in and it's refracting through the glass, and then it's refracting again when it goes back from the glass into air. The effect of refracting both times causes the image, in this case with the magnifying glasses, to look larger and to look closer. So when you look through a magnifying glass at an ant like that, it appears huge and appears right up close to you. Same thing with the CD. When you zoom in on the CD, that part of the CD looks really big compared to the background that's not in the magnifying glass that looks smaller. Okay, so that is how this lens works. We'll remember from class yesterday that magnifying glasses are actually a convex lens. So let's review what convex versus concave lenses look like. So here on top we have a convex lens. Remember those the ones that bulge out on both sides. So let's put some light on it. So there's light rays coming from the left. They're going to go through our convex lens. When they refract through our convex lens, they converge to a focus point. So all the light that goes through is bent or refracted onto one single focus point. Remember, the word converges means that the light rays are coming together to a point. Okay, so there is a focus point when light goes through a convex lens. However, when light goes through a concave lens, something different happens. Instead of converging, the light now diverges. So we have diverging light, therefore there's no focus point. Remember when you were able to use the lenses during class, you were shining your iPhone light into the lenses, and when you're using a concave lens, you were not able to get the light to get to one specific point on the ceiling. You can only do that with the convex lens, not with the concave. That's because concave lenses diverge the light versus convex, which converges. So now let's talk about the human eye and how the human eye is able to take in light from our surroundings and create images in the back of our eyes, which allow us to actually perceive what's around us so that we can see things. All right, so let's start in the front of the eye. So in the very, very front, on the tip there, that's the cornea. So that's the area in front of the actual eye. That's where light goes through first. The cornea kind of protects the inside of our eye. Next here, this is the iris. The iris is sort of the colored part of the eye. So that's that ring of color. So some people are brown. I have brown eyes. Some people have blue irises. Some people have green irises. And there are some other ones as well. But that's, again, the colored part that goes around the pupil. And the pupil is that inside part, the black part. That's where the light goes in. So the iris actually constricts and expands, and the pupil gets smaller or bigger based on how much light is in a room. So when you're in a really dark room, and there's not that much light, the iris gets wider and your pupils do something called dilating. When your pupils dilate, they get bigger. So the word dilate means that the pupil is expanding and letting in more light because there's not very much light in the room, so you need more of it. But when you go outside on a bright sunny day, your pupils actually constrict, so they get smaller. Constricting is when the pupil gets small because it only needs a little bit of light because it's so bright in your surroundings. Okay, so that's how the iris and the pupil work. And then once the light gets through the pupil, it gets refracted through the lens. So the lens is the most important part here in our sense, because that's where the light's actually refracted. And once it's refracted, it sort of combines or converges down to the back of the eye. At the back of the eye, the back of our eye is the retina. The retina is sort of this back coating on the back side of our eyes. This is where the rods and cones are. I talked a lot about rods and cones in a previous lecture. Remember that rods are what allow us to see light versus dark, and cones are what allow us to see color. Remember, there are three cones that we have. We have the red one, the blue one, and the green one. And I talked all about how color blindness happens when any of those three cones don't work properly or you're missing them altogether. Okay, so those rods and cones are in your retina. And back here, we see the light converges at that one spot. That's the focus point on the retina. That's where the images are actually created. The images are created nice and clear on the retina. It's also called the fovea. The fovea, that's where the image is created. Now that's great. Now that the image is created, it still needs to be sent to your brain, right? So the optical nerve is what actually sends that image. It takes it in and it sends it to your brain so that your brain knows exactly what you're seeing. So when all these parts of the eye work together, that's what allows us to see images in the world around us. Like right now, I see a computer screen, or I see a lamp, or I see a speaker. That's all these different parts of my eye are all functioning perfectly together to allow my brain to see these images. Taking in the light rays and they're converging to the back of my eye, and the optical nerve is sending those images back into my brain so that I can think about it and I can perceive them. So here, let's take a closer look at the human eye. Let me just move my face a little bit. So here we have the human eye. So we have the lens, we have the retina, and the optic nerve. So when there's a person outside the eye, those rays go through the pupil, they refract through the lens, and what happens is the image is actually upside down. Isn't that crazy? So the image that's in the back of your eye at the retina is actually upside down. But your optic nerve is able to flip that right side up in our brains. So we do that without even thinking, right? We look at things, and if we were to look at it on the back of our eye, it would actually be upside down. Our whole world would be upside down. But our optic nerve allows us to, in our brain, we convert it so that everything is right side up. Here are images of normal vision and nearsighted vision and farsighted vision. You might have heard these terms before when people talk about when they need glasses. Someone could be nearsighted or they could be farsighted. In either case, they might need glasses. Okay, so these are the most common types of eye defects. So these are defects that happen in our eyes that don't allow us to see perfect 20/20 vision. So here we're going to take a look at an eyeglass simulation to see what it's like to have eye defects. So I'm going to open this up. So here we're going to take a look at how the eye works. We can see the actual eyeball here. In this case, the eye is actually facing the other direction than the image that I showed you before. So we have the cornea up front over here. The iris kind of pulls down right here and down here. The pupil is right here, and this is the lens that refracts the light, and the light's going to go back to the back of the eye, back to the retina, where the image is then flipped by the optical nerve, and we see what we see. So let's take a look. I'm going to create an image on the right. So this is what the eye is seeing. They see a landscape and a cell phone. Those light rays are going in. They go through the pupil. They get refracted. They go all the way to the back at the retina, and they create an image perfectly. So this is perfect normal vision. As a result, the person sees this on the left. So the image comes in from the right, it gets refracted down, and they converge right on the retina. So when you have normal vision, your lens is able to converge those light rays exactly onto your retina. Okay, it's right on your retina. But now let's take a look at what it's like to have one of the eye defects. So let's look at something called hyperopia. So hyperopia is farsightedness. This occurs when the cornea is too flat in relation to the length of the eye. So it causes images beyond the retina, which can result in clear distance vision but blurry near vision. So you're farsighted because you can see far, but you can't see near. So let's take a look at what happens when you are farsighted. When you're farsighted, here we go. See the eye kind of shrinking in. We see how the background of the image is still clear, but the cell phone's starting to look blurry. So in this case, the cell phone is now completely blurry. The thing that's close or near to the eye is actually super blurry, but the background is still nice and crisp. Right? That's because the image is being created behind the retina. So the image is becoming refracted behind the retina, so they can't see close, but they can see far away. That's farsightedness. So now let's switch that out for myopia, which is called nearsightedness. Nearsightedness occurs when the cornea is too steep or the eye is too long, and it causes the images to focus in front of the retina. So this results in clear background, but a crisp foreground. So they can see the foreground, they can see things that are near, but they can't see things that are far. So we'll see this person and this adult with a little child holding hands, they're going to get blurry. See that? That's because the image is being formed. The rays converge, but they converge right here, and that's in front of the retina. Remember, to have normal vision, those have to converge right onto the retina. Okay, those rays have to get right on the retina. But since they're in front of it, things are a little bit wonky, and they can't see far, but they can see up close. Then there's a couple more. I'm just going to touch on them briefly, just so we can get some exposure to them. This is called astigmatism. Astigmatism, that's when the cornea is irregularly shaped. It's more curved in one direction than the other. So this is pretty crazy. It actually causes everything to kind of stretch out and look blurry. So this is pretty bad because everything is blurry. We see on the actual eyeball that all the light rays are actually becoming out of focus. It's because the shape of the cornea on the front, remember the cornea is this front part, is kind of bulges out, and it causes the light to refract a little bit too much. Okay, let's go to the next one here. This one just kind of looks like a similar effect as farsightedness, but it's really just when you get old, some of the inside of the eye hardens and it becomes harder for you to go between focusing on something that's close versus focusing on something that's far away. But then cataracts, you might have heard of cataracts. Cataracts are when the eye actually gets a little bit cloudy. So your vision becomes cloudy and you can't see things perfectly clear. So if we go all the way down here, see the cataracts get pretty bad. You can actually see the darkening of the lens in here. So let me go back. When you have perfect normal vision and you're young, your lens looks nice and clear. But as you get older, it's natural that your lens starts to get a little bit dirty, fogged up, gets gunk in it, and then now it looks kind of brown. So you have cataracts. It's relatively common. So when that happens, there's something called cataract surgery. So cataract surgery is literally replacing that lens with a fresh one. So here we have one that's kind of dark brown and you can't see all that well. Well, what they do is they literally remove that lens and they surgically place a new lens in, and then bam, now you can see clearly. So that's cataract surgery. So these were all different types of vision defects or eye defects that can happen, which cause the convergence of the light, the image, to not be on the retina. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. So here, these recap more on the farsighted versus nearsighted. So farsighted, you can see far away, but not up close, like I said. But if you were to add a convex lens in front of that eyeball, it would then correct the vision. Because remember, the convex lens causes the light to converge. So what it's doing is converging the light even more. So the rays initially converge behind the eye, but with a lens in front of it, it causes them to converge even sooner right on the retina. So we go from behind to right on the retina. That's why this lens is correcting that vision. And then on the other hand, we have nearsightedness. That's when the rays converge, but they converge too close. They converge way in front of the retina. So see how they come together? The image will be formed right here, but the retina is way back here. So you can see up close, but you cannot see far away. But if you add a concave lens, so just the opposite of the convex lens, that causes the rays to diverge just a little bit. And it causes them to diverge just enough that it pushes the image back onto the retina. So it causes the ray to go backwards a little bit back onto the retina. The concave lens isn't diverging the light completely. It's not like splitting the light off completely. It's just changing it a little bit, just so that it converges a little bit farther back on the actual retina. Okay, so both of these, the convex and the concave lens, they both fix vision. They're both vision correcting, but one is for farsightedness. So the convex lens causes the image to move forward, but the concave lens fixes nearsightedness and it causes the image to move backwards. Both cases, they move the image to be on the retina. Because again, when the light rays converge on the retina, that's when we have perfect vision. So let's look at one more simulation here. All right, so here we have an eyeball. We have an object over to the right. We have light rays coming up. They hit the lens. They converge to create an image. And here's the retina. Remember, the retina is where the image needs to form so that we can see. So with normal vision, if our focus is in the middle and the object is in the middle, then we'll notice that the image is formed right at the retina. So you can see that very well. And if you focus on something far away, and the object is in fact far away, then the image is focused right on the retina. But have you ever noticed that if something's really far away, but you focus on something near, it becomes blurry? Well, that's because when you focus near, the image is no longer being created on the retina. Now it's up here. It's in front of the retina. But when you focus back in on something far away, it pushes the image back onto the retina. Okay, so now let's look at nearsightedness versus farsightedness. So when you're nearsighted, right, something's close up and you can see it perfectly, the lights converge right onto the retina. But when something is far away and you try to look far away, so by all accounts, if you had perfect vision, it would be right on the retina, but it's actually in front of the retina. Remember, when you're nearsighted, you can't see the things that are far away. So what we need is something that'll push that image back onto the retina. So we do need to correct it with one of our types of lenses. So now I want you to think a little bit about which type of lens is going to cause the image to get pushed back onto the retina. And if you guessed concave, you are absolutely correct, because the concave makes it diverge just a little bit, which pushes it back onto the retina. Pushes it back onto the retina. So that is correcting nearsightedness. So when the object's far away, we needed this concave lens to diverge the light just a little bit so that the image gets pushed back onto the actual retina. So now let's look at farsightedness. So when something's far and you look far away, then you can see the image pretty clearly because the image gets created right on your retina. But if the object is now near and you look near, if it's too close, the image gets created behind the retina. So if it's behind the retina, we need the other type of lens to push it forward right onto that retina. That way the image is formed right on top of it so that our brain can digest and figure out exactly what that image is. And then bang, it'll be in focus and you can actually see. That's what lenses in our glasses do. They take the light rays and they refract them differently so that the images get created perfectly on our retina. So today I talked all about lenses. I talked about how our eye works and how images are created in the back at the retina. And I also talked about how glasses work and how glasses are able to correct nearsightedness or farsightedness. So that's all I have for today. Hope you guys have a great one.